Hi, welcome to the Cervena Barva Press series. And I'm really excited to have Rebecca and Cindy read tonight. So let's get started. Rebecca Hart Olander's poetry has appeared recently in Myrrh on the Seawall, Poetry Northwest, and elsewhere. Her books include Dressing the Wounds, a Dancing Girl Press chapbook, Uncertain Acrobats, and Singing from the Deep End, both by CavanKerry. Rebecca has taught poetry widely, most recently as the James Merrill Visiting Poet at Amherst College. She is the publisher at Perugia Press, a feminist press publishing emerging women poets. And I give you Rebecca.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Thanks for including me in this afternoon. Lovely to see everyone, meet new friends, and see familiar faces. Thanks for coming out to listen. This is my new book, Singing from the Deep End. It came out February 3rd. You can get it at CavanKerry Press, which is also a publisher that published Cindy's first two books, and some other folks in the room, Kali Lightfoot's book. And I'm going to be reading from this today. And I'm going to read some new things. I haven't read, a couple that I have read, but a few new things I haven't read yet at a reading. I've been reading a lot, so I wanted to mix it up in case, for myself, but also in case folks have come out more than once. So the book is in three parts. It's set in Gloucester quite a bit, Gloucester, Massachusetts, the North Shore of Boston, where I grew up with my mom. I was close to my dad and he was in Boston, but my mom was a single mom and I lived with her primarily. So the first part is girlhood, girlhood friendships, coming of age. The middle section is for my dear friend Jerica, who died in 2020. She was my friend for over 30 years, my college roommate. And those poems are called the Jerica poems. And the third section is my own mothering and more present day things. So my mom comes into those poems because she's still in my life at the end of the book. So let's see. Oh, and you can also I'm at RebeccaHartOlander.com, so you can also get a signed copy from me in my books tab there. So you can find it that way as well. All right, so the first poem I'm going to read is for my brother. I haven't read this one yet at any readings. It's called Turtle, and it's in two parts. Turtle, 1. Despite the ticks that fastened in our creases on the dirt bike trail, to us, Lyme was just a Connecticut town where my brother Peter and I stayed with our grandmother that gypsy moth summer of 1981. Looper Delorso, the boy next door my brother hung out with, was also my crush with his Sean Cassidy bangs. A glow in my fluorescent mesh top and drugstore sunglasses, I met him in the pines. Was it at this betrayal, my first kiss bestowed upon his friend, that my brother swore? Nanny cleansed the profanity from his mouth with a bar of soap. Lake fishing from a canoe, Peter and I caught a snapping turtle, drove it home in a bucket when we couldn't get the hook out, the hook still in when we threw it in Goose Cove Reservoir after it outgrew its tank. 2. In the holy city of Mathura, lit candles set sail into the Yamuna on delicate leaf boats until swallowed by the river, full of turtles that rise to be fed by waiting priests. As in an illustration from a childhood book bearing my own name, Tasha Tudor's Becky's Birthday, in which the girl's brother hides upstream and sends down a blazing cake rigged to a raft ringed with flowers. It floats toward his sister, who waits to be surprised on the banks of the darkened riverside. Did I expect sweetness to ride toward me on a river? Peter and I to love each other without barbs? I looked for our turtle, but it never surfaced where I could see. Instead, there was my brother, biking away from me toward the rim of the reservoir, seeming not to need me at all, though he was the younger one, tender inside his shell, and I, the one who left. And I'm going to read one of the girlhood friendship poems um, called The Early Intimacy of Gwen and Me. I still think about that girl I befriended at 9 or 10. She in a halter top and cutoffs, her legs the legs of a foal. Me beside her in blue, my terry cloth romper edged in white piping, like a muppet. We were holding strawberry pots my mom gave us to plant, but wishing we were cheerleaders. We were playing Ouija in her bedroom with her sister. Their mother did calligraphy, had blonde hair, was always home. My mother was at work, at school, in the garden. From my friend, I didn't have to hide what my mother rolled and smoked. And from me, she didn't have to hide the way her father yelled at her, how she called him by his first name, like someone she could choose. Their whole house couldn't breathe. In their dark kitchen, her mother read our handwriting as if it were tea leaves or a doctor's chart. She saw the goiter in my neck, my thyroid trying too hard. When I recall my diagnosis, I think of her noticing me. Years later, it was as if Gwen and I knew each other too well. I still think about that fellow daughter, my up-the-street neighbor, budding artist with her scented stickers on her Trapper Keeper binder. In the high school halls, we looked the other way. Sort of the opposite of what happened, Jennifer, with you and Susan. An early friend, but we're connected now on Facebook, though. And I asked that friend if I could share this poem in my book. I didn't ask her permission. I shared it with her ahead of publishing because it has to do with her family a little bit. And I wanted to make sure that I wanted to have a chance to have a conversation with her about it before it was published and see how she felt about it. And she gave me her blessing and said that it felt just like that in her memory. I'm going to move to the second section of the book, the Jericho poems. And let's see. This is referencing a long time ago when Jerica and I traveled in Europe during college. And this was in Spain. On the Carrer de Mallorca in Spain one long ago winter. In Barcelona, Gaudi's architecture, an undoing in its doing. Looking up at the Basilica de la Sagrada Familia, a bag of oranges in my fist, tethering me to the ground and to my friend. We had said we'd share them, and it was my turn to swing the netted sack while we walked. Questions fell away. Then the train took us to Toledo and its Gothic cathedral, where the flush of faith followed. I don't know when it left, and didn't immediately notice it was gone. Oh, awe. Oh, God. Why can't you be undeniable, like gravity? I try to feel you again, but it is an old flower press, screws like rusted wings, and inside, after a season, brown dust, smaller and duller than before. And when my friend passed, she had a 3-year-old, almost 4-year-old son. Um, and this one is called My Toddler Godson, in the yard in May. Um, and he just turned 10. My toddler godson in the yard in May. He bounds to the edge of the gully where ticks overwinter in old leaves. Just realized ticks show up in this poem too. It's tick season, people, they're out there. All right, sorry. My toddler godson in the yard in May. He bounds to the edge of the gully where ticks overwinter in old leaves, kicks rocks from the ring around his mother's garden, throws them over their brindled dog. Fists full of mulch, he backs up the concrete steps, a truck reversing. Beep, beep, beep. Music drifts through an open window next door. He bobs his head, the beat in his body. His mother's hair is falling out. She's planting strawberries and clipping back the bulbs that have come and gone. Grape hyacinth she leaves, still half purple on the stalk, still showing off a little. He roots down hard on the sidewalk when I try to bring him in, parrots back to me, honey, no. He knows how to say my name, and it isn't Mama. She won't hear years from now. The out of tune bleats on his requisite recorder. Will he thrash a guitar, take up the sticks, bang out another way of saying no? Okay, I'm going to move to the third section. Um, this is a poem called Beavers Never Want to Live a Different Life. Um, the setting in the poem is Fitzgerald Lake, which is a a lake in my town in Florence, Massachusetts, in Western Massachusetts. And some of you will recognize Nancy Kerrigan and Tonya Harding from the end of the poem, the figure skaters. Um, but I have a naturalist friend who's also a poet. Her name is Kathy Five Ash, and she is the friend in this poem with her dog Lily. She literally is the kind of awesome, intrepid woman who goes into beavers' lodges and things like that. So Kathy's a different friend shows up in this poem, my friend Kathy. Beavers never want to live a different life. Down by the lake, the new beaver lodge sits, wet as a dog in a storm. My friend I met on the path is out there even now on the ice with her Lily, both of their tongues wagging at the white sky and its thin trails of mare's tails. Not long ago, she told me of entering a beaver's house, the packed mud and dung walls, the way it was harder to climb out than in. Now, across the frozen surface, her footsteps echo as if they were closer, as if, in winter, proximity is accomplished by ear. Industry is exhausting. The beavers can't give up, can't take a personal day, or go to the movies, as I do, by myself on a Monday afternoon, when I don't have to teach and I want to watch Tanya carve her own grave across the glittering rinks of our shared youth. They probably don't sink their teeth like blades into each other out of spite either, or ever get jealous. Just leave their old homes and build new ones, all toothy and hardworking, like Nancy Kerrigan. And I'm going to close with the last poem in the book. I had mentioned that my mom, I didn't read the poems about my mom at the beginning, but there are a lot of them. And then she comes into the end of the book and she's in the very last one too. Telling the bees. The queen has died. The royal beekeeper has visited the bees and put them into mourning. I want to knock on a hive, tell the bees my mother's heart needed repair. She is my monarch. I got lost in Mount Auburn Cemetery, trying to pass the hours of her surgery, followed elder path as if it led to my ancestors. On another avenue, under a thick-limbed willow, I tried to understand the carved letters, what they said, how people could have taken knives to bark and dug in, adding their names as if the trunk were theirs. I will apologize to the trees. I too am a keeper, have counted on nectar, expected continuous honey. I will tell the bees I am sorry we don't protect them as they protect their queen. I will apologize to my mother for not loving our mother as well as I should. I will do as I am told. I will lean into the end of summer goldenrod and listen. Thank you all for listening today so much and being here. Thanks for having me, Gloria and Cindy. Looking forward to hearing your poems.
Thank you, Rebecca. That was really beautiful. And our next reader is Cindy Veach. She is the author of 3 poetry collections, Monster Galaxy by Moonpath Press, which just came out, Her Kind, an Eric Hoffer Medal finalist, and Gloved Against Blood, a Patterson Poetry Prize finalist, and a Massachusetts Center for the Book Must Read. And both those books are from CavanKerry, a recipient also of the Philip Booth Prize and the Samuel Ellen Washington Prize. Cindy's poems have appeared in the Academy of American Poets, Poem a Day, Agni, Poet Lore, and elsewhere. And I give you Cindy.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Thank you for having us. Becky, it's just been an honor to read with you. And I've read a lot of these poems on the page, but to hear you read them is really special. So thank you. And thank you all for being here. It's just wonderful to see so many friends in the audience. Yeah, so I'm going to read from my new book, which is my newest book, but it's almost a year old. I can't believe it. Monster Galaxy. And this book is really how I grieved my father, who passed away in 2019. And that was really my first experience with deep grief. And it kind of triggered an examination of my girlhood and my upbringing, and also became a lens to sort of look at my father's flaws and also my own internal monsters that resulted from girlhood and upbringing. Like Becky, my book is in 3 sections. The first section is sort of about family of origin and shame. The middle section's about movement, not just like physical movement, but also time. And then the last section's sort of mothering, aging, transformation. So I'll start with the first poem, which is takes its form from a poem by Betsy Scholl titled Genealogy. Just going to start my timer. A partial catalog of my monsters. One of my monsters is the flesh-eating Dimetron. One is a giant chameleon with a 20-foot tongue. One takes the shape of a man with a dirk in my girlhood bedroom. One is the devil Dementia, who took his prehensile tentacle, pried the latch, and emptied my mother. One of my monsters is the good girl. She's huge like a dirigible, huge like the Jolly Green Giant. She can't pick up a pin, can't make a move without wrecking her house. One is the other mother. She slapped her child for biting the baby she nearly bled out to birth, thus the monster called shame. One is the crone who begat the bone vampire who feasts on spine, hip, femoral neck. One is forgetting, the other remembering. She was a girl waving to her father, leaving on a trip, his promise to bring her back little hotel soaps. The next poem, I was obsessed with the TV show Lost in Space when I was a girl. And this poem mentions the character Penny Robinson, and there's other poems in the book that also mention her and Lost in Space. Girlhood. Penny Robinson was lost in space for 3 seasons. I watched every single episode. I watched every single Wednesday night on our RCA black and white TV with tinfoil wrapped rabbit ears. I watched Penny adopt a bloop and name it Debbie. I watched her accept shiny crystals from Mr. Nobody. I watched a werewolf attack her. I watched Sizemore put his feelings into his android, and Farnham, the evil zookeeper, add her to his human collection. I watched the boy behind the mirror tell her they could always have fun and stay children forever. I watched her grow tall. I watched a girl with braids and bangs become a beauty with breasts and a bob. I watched and wanted to be her. I watched and stayed short. I watched and stayed flat-chested. I watched and stayed the good girl. I watched and was left behind. All right. I think I was a good daughter. A man so allergic to what he caught, I had to bait his hooks, unhook his catch. I touched the worms, I pierced their bodies, I touched the fish, flapping and fighting the barb, and every time he asked, I cleaned his fish, slit each one with a steak knife, lifted the tiny heart and liver and entrails up with the tip of a blade. A man who loved the ocean, the idea of fishing, surf casting, whose tackle box was a disaster of tangled line, rusted reels. I don't know how it happens that a man so present, lies down and lies down, any more than a sky can shed itself of sky. After I touched his face for the last time, after I touched down in Boston, after I made it home, I was as alone as a cornered spider. Why am I telling you this? This poem, next poem mentions an artist named Al Hirschfeld who was known for his line drawings of famous people that appeared in the New York Times, and he would hide his daughter's name, Nina, in the lines, and it was like a game to find the Ninas on Sundays. Bulletproof. Before my belly was a kiln, before episiotomy, before hemorrhage, years before my brother started spiking his thermos with Absolute, before my mother forgot, before my father died, Al Hirschfeld hid his daughter's name in drawings of Marilyn, Elvis, Ella, Ringo Starr. Nina's concealed in gams and jowls. Harmless insanity, he called it. Long before I left the church, before my children left home. And yes, it's true that the Army used Al's Ninas to train bomber pilots to spot their targets. And yes, I've now lived long enough to know what I did not know then, that he objected to his art being used to kill people, drew his daughter with no Ninas and named it Nina's Revenge. That some nights my father took off to wander Times Square, eat at an automat, or so he said. And yes, maybe my brother was right, that he wasn't always true. But some memories are bulletproof. I look back and long for the Sundays my father came home with bagels and the New York Times, and we'd spend all Sunday searching for the Ninas in that week's Hirschfeld drawing. There was a discovery of what they called a rare monster galaxy a few months after my father passed, and it was made the headlines. It's 12 billion years old, and they said that they had caught it in an inactive phase, and they were not sure what would happen to it as time went on. Legacy. I don't know what happened to the cast iron skillets my father collected from thrift shops around Chicago, rusted in need of steel wool, olive oil, heat. When I come across cast iron sets in the Vermont country store catalog, I turn the page. It's raining, gloomy, but there's a snow moon coming, a welcome respite from the darkness. My father was overprotective, paranoid, Deadbolt, door chain, secret knock. No place was safe. I was afraid to go anywhere alone. He left me before the discovery of a rare monster galaxy, a massive blaze of suns that spawned in the early universe, then died. Even now, its dark matter looms in the cosmos, isolated, no longer birthing stars. If there is life after death, what is this galaxy's fate? I followed his instructions to a T, and yet his carbon, his dust. Will I ever know what happened to those skillets, their constellation of crumbs, congealed grease, droplets of condensation quivering? This patch where the light cannot reach. I see a candelabra of branches or birds crossing landscapes, flickering above fences, laying rails down on so white snow, on cold, so cold. That tatted freight train flashing past, shadow boxing, tunnel, trestle, approaching Minneapolis or any city's welcome mat of skyscraper penumbras. I see if I sit on a park bench in memory of a late afternoon in winter, black stripes like a zebra on the loose, and a can of pop someone left, its dark ellipse, its crush. I see ducks casting over the iced mill pond below the malto meal plant, low banks of stubble and freeze, shadow of daddy longlegs. Oh, to be a thing that doesn't subscribe to age or gender. I tissue its delicate legs. I crush. There was supposed to be a father in this poem. This poem was inspired and borrows from a poem by Susan Rich called Booketto, which is a poem about learning a new word. A glaikwyf. Outside my window, men are repainting the crosswalk, putting new lines over old lines. I learned a new word today, an old English word, a glaikwyf, a monster woman, troll lady, wretch, hag. Think the grand high witch of all the world. Think Grendel's no-name mother. And then I learned that this word is the feminine form of a glaika, a hero, a valiant warrior. Why am I not surprised? I know these tropes, the monster mother, the sexless crone, toothy, bald, clawed, toeless child hater, child eater. If all witches are women, as Roald Dahl wrote, then I claim that pedigree, but explain why gender makes me witch, not warrior, hag, not hero. What patriarchal alchemy creates monsters out of what I'm supposed to be versus what I am? I've tried to be good, to exist between the lines, yet look at me, my galaxy of monsters. Yeah, speaking of monsters, this next poem is titled The Age of Monsters. There's one bird that every evening calls and calls that I can't seem to locate. But I've grown used to lying here listening, trying to imagine her level of lust at dusk. Truth might be the night coming on to me, putting the body to bed by itself. I lift up my nightgown. This body, untouched for years, slips from it. Pound for pound, I am more crone, less girl. I look down at myself, my unsung flesh. I'll never be that shameless bird. So one of the things that I've sort of struggled with, I guess, since my kids are grown and gone, is wanting them to know me as a person, not just a mom, right? Like I'm just more than a mother, right? So this poem kind of speaks to that. Being a mother. When I first put her on, she fit me to a T. And looking back, I can see her reflection in the full length, pushing you in an umbrella stroller as you cuddled your gunned bunny. The minute you were grown, she shed me the way a snake sloughs skin. What kind of mother trick is that? Deep down in my gut of guts, I want you to know me as I am and be okay. Meanwhile, I walk behind you on a path through your new neighborhood, stopping to wonder at some flowers I can't name because I'll never be that person again. Something tall with purple bulbs, thistle-like, studded with dormant bees. Just have a couple more. Um, The Woman Who Swallowed a Python. This poem was inspired by an article that was in Yahoo News a few years ago about a woman who went into her cornfield to check on her cornfield, and she was swallowed by a python. It was in Thailand. The Woman Who Swallowed a Python. A woman went into her cornfield and swallowed a python. The cobs were frightened. Even wild boars ran away. Inside every woman, there are monsters. A woman can swallow and swallow. She can choke down her truth for 100 reasons. Unzip her and meet the beasts. Follow my footsteps. Here are the things you will need: flashlight, slippers, machete. Come alone. If you're lucky, you will find her. There will be questions. Can a woman choke down shame? Can a woman choke down her bones, her mind? There will be speculation. Who swallowed whom? Is there a woman inside every monster or monsters inside every woman? What if both things can be true? A reticulation of wrinkles and collagen, wisdom and faux pas, fear and ferocity. And then I'll close with the last poem in the book. It's called Obad. Spring frost on the windshield, fingerprint whorls, lace. I scrape and scrape. A block away, bells start up, the Baptist church with the white picket fence. It's too cold for April. Blinding sun glances off the glass, and I am done. We'll squint through what remains as I drive north and east, Gloucester, Rockport. In Catholic school, I learned that the soul was a sphere, milky like a full moon, and every sin a black speck, kettle of invasive starlings. The habited sisters made us count and catalog every wrong only God could absolve. Sunday mornings, I go to the sea. I've done the best I can. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gloria. Thank you all for being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Those were incredible poems. Both of you just really, really powerful and beautiful. And so thank you so much. Can we give them another round of applause?